once you are under contract, once you have received that, congratulations, we decided to accept your offer from the listing agent, this is exactly what I send all of my clients. Everything is a process. I do the same thing over and over again. And so this is exactly my canned email, buyer email number 4. Congratulations, we're under contract. And what do you know? I started off with a bomb email. The first thing that this buyer email 4 is covering, that congratulations, woohoo, like seller accepted your offer. We are now under contract. And this is your to-do list. I have it numbered here. Number 1.
Welcome back to the Agent Goldmine. You are here for another exciting episode on the buyer process, hosted by the lovely and magical Ali Shelby. And she is wearing this beautiful hat. If you're just listening on the podcast, she has this super fucking vacation style. She is literally came back from her cruise for 2 days to hop on and share this information with you. And then she's going to Puerto Rico in like tomorrow. So anyway, but here's what to expect. We are on the buyer email 3 of our step-by-step buyer process. And we are going over email 4. This is the third recording, right, Ali? She's fucking making faces at me. Ali, this is the third fucking episode of the buyer process. Is that right? Yes or no?
Yes. I think you originally said 3, but yes, this is the third episode of the buyer process. And we're going over buyer email 4, which is once we are under contract with a buyer, step by step, exactly how I do it. Again, Shelby and I are giving away these checklists for free 99. So hit us up. You can now message her, The Shelby Show. You can message me, Ali the agent. And we also literally share our personal cell phone numbers, which may be a mistake later on. But as of right now, we are sharing our personal cell phone numbers. So hit us up. It's during that little ad thing during the middle of these episodes. Welcome to the Agent Goldmine, the only podcast in the world specifically for real estate agents who are stuck at 5 transactions a year to help them get to 20 plus. Your hosts, Ali Shelby and Shelby Johnson, 2 EXP icon agents, each do over 40 transactions a year and interview others who are crushing it. In this podcast, you'll receive the knowledge to help you scale your business using systems and processes with our interviews and monologues twice a week. If you want to be a part of our community, reach out. Welcome to the show. I am sharing my screen again. It's going to be easier for you to follow along on the YouTube, but also if you hit us up, you're going to see it once you get these emails in your inbox after we set up a chat. So let's get to it. If you remember, the last episode, we left off on what to do up until you're under contract. So this episode, again, is once you are under contract, once you have received that, congratulations, we decided to accept your offer from the listing agent. This is exactly what I send all of my clients. It's a canned email. I will make a little bit of tweaks, depending on the situation of that specific contract, but everything is a process. I do the same thing over and over again. And so this is exactly my canned email, buyer email number 4. Congratulations, we're under contract. And what do you know? I started off with a bomb email or bomb video because, because I love video. And otherwise, people are getting an email with a fuck ton of words and they do not want to read this. So in this video, I once again state, hey, watch this video as you are reading the email because I literally just go over everything. So if you're too lazy to read, I'm here for it. That's why I've made this video and people love it. People love it. So the first thing that this buyer email 4 is covering is that congratulations, woohoo, like seller accepted your offer. We are now under contract. Day 1 of our X period of due diligence starts tomorrow. And this is your to-do list. So I have it numbered here. Number 1, it's not brand new. Number 1 has always been stated like starting from buyer email number 2, 3. And again, it's on email number 4 in case they haven't, which is add the transaction coordinator's email to your contacts. Otherwise, we're perpetuously going to be in the circle of, I didn't get an email. What's your TC's name again? I never signed the buyer broker. I haven't signed this yet. And because it's in your junk. So once again, I will say add my TC's email to your contact. So that way it doesn't go to your missed or spam or promotions or social or whatever. Number 2 is in bold. And this says wire the earnest money deposit ASAP. You should know how long it takes in your state. In Arizona, it is due no later than 3 days after the contract acceptance. So if you went under contract on a Friday, you better have that shit ready to go on Monday. Like as soon as the banks open, call them. And if you are on Pacific time, call them on Eastern time because that's when the banks open. So I make sure that they know this. Transfer the money immediately because the last thing we want to do after me as your buyer's agent or you as the buyer's agent has sucked up to the listing agent, the last thing you want to do is then not send the wire on time because that does not help you or your buyers during the inspection period and during the appraisal period. So make sure that you're on it. Sometimes I even tell my buyers, the state of Arizona allows 3 days. Do this today. Like we find out that we're under contract today. If we still have time, call the bank before you get off of work today. So that way it's before even day one of due diligence. So that's what we do. Now, any questions so far before I go to number 3, Shelby?
No,
Okay,
no.
Yeah, no problem. So number 3 is pay for inspections. You know best how it goes in your state with the inspection companies that you have. In Arizona, the inspection companies that I use, they typically will go out to the property and do the inspection before getting paid. They just will not send the report until they've been paid. But either way, I tell my clients again, I set like super, super like strict expectations. And I'm like, hey, sometimes the inspection company won't go out there until you've paid. So make sure, this is, unless you have reached out to an inspection company that you prefer to work with, then maybe you already have their contact information. Figure out how it works with them. If we're using our preferred inspection companies, reach out to them either way. I give them their information, their email, their cell phone. Give them a call. The payment is going to go directly to them. I don't accept any payment, making it super, super clear. And once again, in this email, I also reiterate roughly how much inspections cost. So a lot of times roof inspections are free. So why not get them? Home inspections will typically cost between $450, $600, unless we're doing a property of like over 2,500 square feet. Termites is typically $75, $100. Even though the termites are typically $75, I will always go above because you never know when inflation hits for that company and they need to up their prices. And plumbing inspection, I give them a ballpark. And again, this is something that I've already spoken to them on that first Zoom call. On the very, very first Zoom call, we've covered all of this already. This is not brand new information. I will never present brand new information via an email. That's a cop out. That's the easy way out. And that's a way to blindside your clients. And as soon as you do that, send some sort of brand new information that they weren't aware of or they weren't clear on, you've lost trust. So I will always preface any sort of new information with a phone call first or a Zoom call first. Worst case scenario, a voice text message, and followed up with an email to have it in writing to remind them later on, because they're getting hit with a shit ton of information. If they later on, as they're going to pay the plumbing inspection, didn't realize that the plumbing plus the sewer scope, the camera was going to be, $300, you are not the person that they should be mad at because you have told them several times. Unless you haven't, then they should be mad at you. So that's number 3.
Okay, wait, one question on that. So you do not schedule the inspections for your clients. Your clients are the ones who schedule their own inspections.
My TC will schedule all of them. And so to add another layer to that, being that I no longer even live in Arizona, again, your states better. In Arizona, an agent is required to be at all home inspections. So while I'm living out in Minnesota or on a cruise to the Bahamas, I'm paying an agent, a partner agent of mine, to sit at the inspections. And so that's what you can do if you're on vacation. So that's what I do. The TC schedules it. And being that I'm not there, I literally say, my preferred vendors to use. They're fast, they're easy to communicate with, and the other agents that I work with. So I will coordinate, I'll let them know as soon as they have spoken to the inspection company. I'll throw it in our group chat and say, hey, there's a home inspection plus a roof inspection on Wednesday at 8 a.m. Who can do it? I'm paying this much. And that's how I get that done.
Okay. And at what point were you confirming which inspections the buyer wanted to do? Did I miss that?
That was on buyer email number 3, which is how to draft your offer. And even though it's not part of the contract, it's my very, very last bullet point where I say, which inspections do you want? Because some people want it all. Some people don't want, just want the general. And in that email, I also have, do you have your preferred vendors already, or do you want to use ours? I don't make any money off of it. They're just good companies. So typically they tend to use ours. And so that at that point, my TC knows I've already given her a list of the vendors that I like working with and the vendors I do not like working with. So therefore she knows who to schedule it with.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Shelby, you're always welcome. If you're looking to change brokerages this year so you can increase your business and you want to join us at eXp Realty and would like either myself, Ali Garced, or Shelby Johnson to personally sponsor you in, so that way you have access to 2 icon agents, text the word JOIN to either my number, 914-318-4918, or Shelby's number, 703-399-4332. If I sponsor you and you have access to the both of us and everything that's 5 Pillars Nation, we have the checklist, the systems, the processes to help you scale your business. And don't take our word for it. We've had agents switch brokerages to join us that were stuck making $300,000 GCI, and they join us so they can scale. So text the word JOIN to those numbers and we'll take the next steps. Number 4. Number 4 is talk to your lender about when you want to schedule the appraisal. This is a bullet. This is the little paragraph here that I may tweak depending on the situation. So for example, if the buyer wants to close immediately, or we've negotiated that and the seller wanted to close immediately with the condition of, say, as soon as you go under contract, you're ordering the appraisal, so a situation like that, then at that point, they need to know that they need to speak to the lender, and I will too, that as soon as we've ordered, the inspections, let's order the appraisal as well. So in that way, the appraiser is going to go out there maybe around the same time as the inspections or very, very shortly thereafter. But if they don't mind waiting, if they want to make sure that the house looks good before they even potentially waste their money on sending the appraiser out there, which could be like $600 to wait. So I tell them in writing here, I'm like, keep in mind, if you order the appraiser early, then you could risk that $600. Now, I knock on wood, I've never had a buyer lose out on the appraisal. One time, the inspections came back and they thought that they were going to purchase a property. So they ordered the appraisal like literally day 1 of due diligence, which is part of what we negotiated to get our offer even accepted. But the inspections came back just too bloody and they were like, we don't want to deal with all this. Let's cancel the appraiser. The appraiser was going to go out the next day. So it really, really is hit or miss on, one, the kind of relationship you have with the appraiser, if you know who is going out there, because there are appraisers left and right. So it's kind of hard to know. But then also too, like being able to sweet talk them and say, hey, I'm so sorry. This is a first time home buyer. They thought that they were going to purchase. They ordered the appraiser like as soon as possible. I'm so sorry. Is there anything we can do to like make sure that you are on the next one, or that you can just not charge them? And usually they're good with it. So I've never had a buyer have to pay.
What Ali said right there is just kind of like an implied task of being a good agent, is like caring enough to, put in the effort to call and to sweet talk and plead and beg and, fight tooth and nail. It is extra effort. It's not written into the job description as if there is a job description, but those type of things are what make your clients love you and also get you way more referrals in the future.
100%. And then leading into point number 5, I have another little paragraph again, which is already stated in my video, that says, when we get the inspection reports back, they're going to be 80 fucking pages and it's going to be all red. So don't die, don't faint, expect this. And even if it's a new build, you're going to have a 60-page report. So, and I tell them this again, time and time again, because people forget. So I have it again in writing. So that way, when the buyers come back, or if the buyers come back and say, holy crap, we did not expect this, I can always point back to this. But then also that means to me that I should have explained it to them one more time, or maybe 2 more times. So it's always feedback on my end. And then I have it here too that says, take it from the inspector's point of view. They're literally getting paid to point out everything. So yes, they're going to point out a tiny little nail sticking out of the house and say that's like a huge safety concern, or the tiny crack in the sidewalk and say, oh my God, that's a trip hazard. You're going to break your neck. So that's, every home will have its slight imperfections. No home is perfect. And then at that bottom of this paragraph, point number 5 here, I say, the question you need to ask is it worth going through with the home purchase? Are there repairs that need to be done, something that I can budget for? Of course, knowing that we can negotiate that as well. That's literally the whole purpose of not buying an as-is home. Which leads me to point number 6, which is, if there are major repairs needed, let's discuss the renegotiations. So in Arizona, standard is 10 days for the inspection period. We can make it shorter. We can make it faster. We can wait. If we get all of our inspections done in 4 days, we can send it in day 5. Some agents like to wait for the full 10 days. I typically don't. As soon as we're ready to go, let's send it, because that's the seller has specifically requested a delayed escrow. Then that's totally fine. But at that point, once we get that bloody inspection report back, then whatever may come of that, we have to give the seller the opportunity for them to fix it themselves first. And by themselves, obviously I don't mean they, like the literal seller fixing the electric. I'm saying that they have the opportunity to fix it first with an actual contractor, a licensed person. The second option that we have is to ask them to credit you in lieu of them making those repairs themselves. So a lot of people will say, okay, sweet, let's just take it off the price, or let's just have them credit me. But in Arizona, we have to have the seller be able to fix it themselves first. So this, again, is more tailored to each specific buyer, depending on how many inspections they want and what they already are qualified for. Like, I have buyers right now, and one dude is an HVAC person. So I don't care that the HVAC is dying. I know HVAC. So that is like really good negotiation point for us, be that the HVAC is toward the end of its servicing life, so we can then ask for a shit ton of roof repairs and everything else, but say, hey, but we're not asking for the HVAC. So then before I go to point number 7, Shelby, do you have anything?
No, this is good. Good shit,
Cool.
Ali.
Cool. And I'm going to fast forward here, or I'm going to add something extra to point number 6 is, I say we can talk about that more when we receive the reports back. Sometimes vendors will send the reports straight to the buyers. Sometimes they'll send it to my TC. Sometimes they'll send it to me. So what I do not like happening is them sending it directly to the buyers without sending it to me too. Because that's when the buyer's going to be like, oh my gosh, I saw the inspection report and 14.11.3 says this. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about yet. So what I do is I always tell my TC to tell the vendors to send it to both of us and them at the same time. Sometimes I will do, if I get it first, sometimes I'll do a bomb of like kind of just skimming through it, but and give the buyers my bomb of just the highlights. Sometimes if the buyer is a little bit more experienced in purchasing and I feel like they can handle it, sometimes I'm okay with them sitting on the report for a couple of days while we're getting other reports back. So while we're waiting on the plumbing and the electric, and then we regroup after we get all of the reports and talk about the highlights. Either way, that is what I always do. We wait until we get all the reports back, and then we talk about everything. And I always make sure that they focus on page 1, or the summary page, which is like the no shit, let's look at the red items. Because in Arizona, we can't ask for them to like just fix replace an entire roof if there's nothing wrong with the roof. Just because it's toward the end of the servicing life doesn't mean we have the ability to just be like, okay, we want a new AC.
From the listing perspective as well. So if you are on the seller side and the buyer's agent is not like Ali, and the buyer's agent sends you just forwards in reports as, they come in piecemeals together a request, it is your responsibility to say no, to say, thank you so much. However, the seller and we will not be reviewing this until you've consolidated and prioritized your requests after all inspections are complete. And so just put that shit right back on them, and especially don't grab that shit and run to your seller every 2 seconds with a different request. That is the way to get them to freak out and fucking hate you. So
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%.
And with that,
um,
so I'm with Ali about, I guess a little different. I prefer like my rule of thumb, and of course this does depend on if, like she said, if someone's experience or whatever, but like my rule of thumb is the reports all come to me and the TC first, and then I consolidate and I at least take a look first, because for me personally, I don't like to be on the spot with things, especially when it comes to repairs and household items, because that is one of my weak areas personally. I'm like, I don't fucking know what that is. I don't fucking know how much that costs. I don't know, whatever. And so I like to at least go through it. And if there's anything where I'm like, I really have no idea about this, then I will call the inspector or I will call my contractor in advance and be like, yo, dude, real talk. Hit me, like, what the fuck is this? How much does it cost? Just so when I go in and talk to the buyer client, I'm like, okay, I already talked to the inspector. I talked to the, contractor. This is roughly what we're working at. And then you can go from there, engage what they're actually concerned about and adjust. Ali said, if it's an HVAC dude, they're not going to fucking care. So that's just my process for that.
yeah, I do a little bit of less work when it comes to that. I just have the buyers. I give the vendors phone number to the buyers. So I'm like, hey, I don't even want you to hear it from me because I'm not a home inspector. So I don't want to say the wrong word and have you believe I don't, and I literally tell them, I don't want to be held liable for this because I am not a contractor. So what I would feel more comfortable, what I think you would feel more comfortable doing is you call the inspector directly and hit them with every single question that you have. They're ready to answer it. And that's what they're there to do. All of my home inspectors also know that that's a potential of that happening. Sometimes buyers don't even do that. Sometimes they just like, but sometimes they do, which is great because that way there's not that game of telephone where I'm gonna fuck something up and say quick release when really it was supposed to be something else. And
yes, and if they have follow-on questions, I do the same thing. If there's like more in-depth questions, I'm like, hey, and then put them in touch. So we are same.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. If you're looking to change brokerages this year so you can increase your business and you want to join us at eXp Realty and would like either myself, Ali Garced, or Shelby Johnson to personally sponsor you in, so that way you have access to 2 icon agents, text the word join to either my number, 914-318-4918, or Shelby's number, 703-399-4332. If I sponsor you and you have access to the both of us and everything that's 5 Pillars Nation, we have the checklist, the systems, the processes to help you scale your business. And don't take our word for it. We've had agents switch brokerages to join us that were stuck making $300,000 GCI, and they join us so they can scale. So text the word join to those numbers and we'll take the next steps. Typically though, whenever I pay, so since Arizona requires an agent to be there, they're talking to the home inspector, especially at the very end, where the home inspector will give a verbal summary of the highlights. So at that point, that agent will tell me, I will tell the clients. And so that way they kind of know what to expect, whether it's like good or bad. So yeah. But I tell them, let's wait until we get all the inspections back and then call each of the vendors once you've read the entire report. So that is step number 6 of the buyer's item, like to-do list. Number 7, I reiterate again, do not buy any large items until you close on the property. You know what? I should probably add here. Do not have your friends send you large payments because that can fuck up financing. Ask your lender. But what I do say is ask your lender first about any purchases if you have any questions. Don't risk losing this property. I'm doing this, which is a little bit more in like the lender lane, but the lender is also doing it too. So that way we can just make sure that we will not cancel because of financing or any sort of surprise. Number 8 is, if applicable, call the solar company to start transferring the lease over to your name. At least in Arizona, I cannot do this for them. Nobody's going to give me jack shit about information about solar contracts since I'm not in it. So instead of playing the game of telephone again, it's going to be less stressful if they just go directly to the solar company and get the information. Because again, if I try to meddle, we're mediators, but we also don't want to make a process more stressful. So especially with like solar liens, solar leases and loans where people are like, okay, but it's 2.29% now, but it's going to increase how much and how much is my payment? And like that, I'm not the solar fucking person. So go directly to them. And that's that. Number 9 is review the buyer packet PDF again. This is buyer email number 4. And once again, that's the one and only attachment on this email for them to review the step that we're on. Watch the videos that apply, starting with the one below. And then lastly, number 10, if you are getting an appraisal after the inspection period is over, tell your lender to order the appraisal. Again, this is putting some responsibility on them, even though it's also on the lender. It's also on you as the buyer's agent and you as a listing agent to make sure that, hey, when are they going to order the appraisal? But it's this, I feel like a lot of buyer's agents don't do, but I think it helps the process of them feeling like they're part of a team, which we are. So, hey, have you spoken to the lender yet about ordering the appraisal? Oh, no, wait, yeah, let me do that. Okay, perfect. Meanwhile, in the back, I've already told them it's already been done, but I want them to feel like they have responsibility, which they do. And it becomes more of like a team effort. If the appraisal comes back right at value, great. If the appraisal comes back higher, congratulations, you're getting instant equity upon closing. I've had 2 contracts this week and both have had at least $6,000 of equity. And I'm just like thinking to myself, I'm like, when I was purchasing properties before I got licensed, I'm like, never did I get instant equity. And now with like, just the transaction count being low, not too many homes in the market, I'm like, I'm getting like 6K. I'm like, anyway,
That's
I need to go buy another property.
That's fucking sick. Are those buyers you're representing in Arizona?
Yes. While I'm living across the country. And not only 6K in equity from the appraisal, but like on one of them, we negotiated $16,000 of seller concessions, and the other one, 12. So you're not bringing anything to the table.
That's sick.
And so anyway, okay. So, and then if the appraisal comes back lower, then depending on if we offered to pay the appraised value, if the negotiation of the contract was that the buyer would pay the difference or meet the seller halfway or anything like that, that is the third portion of the negotiations with the buyer contract. So we can talk about it at that point. And the last line, well, almost the last line of this email is to watch this video. That video, let me click on this here. This video is still part of the buyer packet PDF. But again, I'm making it so fucking easy for them to just watch a video to answer all the other questions that they have. So it's a private video. This is not open to the public because I don't really believe in sharing public information of once buyers are already under contract, because the only people that are going to be viewing that are buyers that are under contract with somebody else. So this is information that I'm sending just to my clients. Yeah, it's a 20-minute long video. Again, people can fast forward, people can just watch the section that they're interested in. But if they have questions, this is the video that I'm going to revert them back to. And of course, at the very bottom, I say, I'm always here for your questions. Congratulations again. The way ahead, your next email is going to be the to-do list, which will be a week before closing. So be on the lookout for that. And the attachment of this email is the buyer client PDF, just as always. Shelby, what questions do you got? Yeah.
One question is, when clients, do you allow or promote or discourage clients from attending the home inspections?
I think my situation is a little bit different just because I mainly work out of state, out of country buyers. So they're not usually even there. If they are there, usually when I send over the inspector's information to the buyer and they connect, sometimes, the inspector will say that we'll address that question. Otherwise, the majority of my buyers do not end up going. If they have the question, I will say you have every, right to be at the inspection, but it does slow it down. And that's why the appraiser gives you their personal cell phone number so you can call them after. So that way you get the full summary, verbal with the tone and everything from the inspector themselves. So if you want to be there, totally cool. But otherwise, I would just say, let the inspector do their job. That's kind of like, that's the exact tone that what I say. And the buyers are like, oh, okay, yeah, that's smart. Plus I usually have work anyway.
Yeah. I was just curious. If they really feel serious about going, I recommend going towards the last 30 minutes of the time block that they're going to be there, just so that way you don't distract them throughout. You don't want a distracted inspector, I promise. You want them to be able to focus. But yeah, I was just curious.
I also think it's pretty smart for the listing agents to go during the last 30 minutes too, or at least the last like 20 minutes. It's kind of annoying though, logistically, because the listing agent is then asking the buyer's agent, when is the inspector going to be done? When is the inspector going to be done? Let me know. Because it's happened to me a couple of times, and I feel like the listing agents that have done that have been older. Granted, there are a shit ton of older agents in Tucson, but I like that. It's pretty smart, for them to at least be a little bit more prepared of what to tell their seller of what they found, or address any questions. So that way it doesn't make it to the report. There was one time specifically where my inspector, there were like these new types of blind windows that were like pretty complicated, and he couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. And so he was like, all right, they're not working. And then when the listing agent came, they were like, you all are dumb. This is how the windows work. And we were like, oh shit. So it didn't make it to the, that's a huge difference to be like, hey, the windows don't fucking work. The blinds don't fucking work, as opposed to, just addressing those simple shit. Because a lot of inspectors will not test around. They're not going to test too hard to make something work. Plus, there's a lot of liability if they were to do that. So having the listing agent there is pretty smart. I think I'm going to do that here in Minnesota.
I've seen that with like an inspector not being able to find like the remote for the fireplace, or just like little things like that, like the remotes for things, and they're like, does not work, like needs replacement, and it's
yes, yeah.
But I mean, the fault is that the remote was not put out in a place where they could easily, and there's always that other side. But it is interesting how quick they are, like to be like, it doesn't fucking work. It's definitely broken.
That's literally the way that I am. Like when I can't open like a jar and I have to ask Brett to like help me. I'm like, this doesn't work.
Yeah, definitely not user error for sure.
Never. So yeah, that is buyer email number 4. I tell them verbally, like whether it's a phone call or a video, usually as soon as we're under contract, I give them a call. I try to have the 3 of us on a call, like partner, or if it's just solo, then just the 2 of us to verbally say, congratulations, we're under freaking contract. You won the house. As opposed to a text message, which doesn't really have that hype by itself, and definitely just an email by itself saying congratulations, you're under contract. That's like the shittiest thing to do. So again, this is such a big moment. This also again accompanies my Trello checklist, which I haven't even shared, which goes into more specifics of how to turn this instance right here can lead you to more referrals. And can lead you to a review. So ask for the review, ask for the referrals, get more clients out of your happy clients right now. So if you want that, I'm more than happy to share that with you. And the next series of this buyer checklist is going to be email number 5, which is going to be the week before closing checklist. If you want these, hit us up. We're here for it.
And be a bro and share this show. Bye.